AI has the power to automate. But if it's using untrusted data, can you trust the results? Your business doesn't just need AI, it needs the right AI for your business. Introducing Watson X, a platform designed to multiply output by tailoring AI to your needs. When you Watson X your business, you can train, tune, and deploy AI, all with your trusted data. Let's create the right AI for your business with Watson X. IBM, let's create.
My name is Kenneth Wilson. I've been in the IT industry for decades. I am an entrepreneur. I ran an IT services business that I built from the ground up for 25 years, a $10 million company. That was a dream job. I had 20 employees, 20 motivated employees, serving Northeast Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and of course Ohio. And it was a dream. Now that had not started before I became a member of BDPA in 1980. Again, when I helped Cleveland chapter founder Norman Mays start the Cleveland chapter, it was one of the most extraordinary times of my life, of many of our lives, those of us in IT, because before BDPA, we were isolated in our own companies. We may have been like the only one in our companies. So on a monthly basis, we had what we call program meetings, and we would come to these program meetings, and it was like a monthly family reunion in BDPA back then. This was before Zoom, before teleconferencing. And so when we got to these meetings, we're hugging, where it's like you would have thought this was a family reunion. We hadn't seen each other in like 10 years. That's how important BDPA was to us back then. It was a source of following Earl Pace's vision. Cleveland was the third chapter, and we followed the template that Earl Pace put in place for us. And they will tell you, we took it to a higher level in Cleveland. We were the first chapter of the year when we started Chapter of the Year awards for BDPA in 1987 in New Orleans. And then we won the very next year at the National Conference. Cleveland was the Chapter of the Year. And so other chapters said, wait a minute, Cleveland won? If Cleveland could do it, I know we can do it. So then Chicago jumped in there. Then Chicago won, but Cleveland, we were runner-up that year. And so it really sparked BDPA to grow from coast to coast nationally. In the 1980s, we had our greatest growth segment of all, where we went from 3 chapters in 1980 up to almost 50 chapters in the early 1990s. And so, I mean, I don't know how to describe it better, except that I had the privilege of helping others entering IT learn about IT through BDPA. And eventually, over time, after giving to the organization 5 years, some folks in the organization said, hey, you know, this Ken Wilson guy, he's really helping us out a lot. So by 1985, I became chapter president, and then for 5 years, actually. And that was one of the best experiences of my life. So there were parallel tracks. As my company was growing in the late 1980s, Wilco Information Management, BDPA was growing in Cleveland and nationally. And I went to every conference from 1981. I didn't miss a conference through 1996. I came every year. So the organization, in terms of what it does for students in technology, what it does for entry-level persons entering information technology, what it does for experienced persons in IT, those who are experienced and become entrepreneurs in IT. The BDPA organization, we started as the Black Data Processing Associates, as you've heard, and this was with Earl Pace and the crew there in Philadelphia. This was back when the awareness just coming out of the civil rights era was, it wasn't just shortening anything to initials. We were a Black Data Processing Associates, and then over time we evolved to, as the acronym caught on, we became the BDPA organization, and today we're looking for ways to expand beyond that and grow beyond that. I got started in tech really in the 6th grade. I realized that was my interest. My 6th grade teacher got me a book. I won a book in a little contest we had called Answers and More Answers. Is how hot is the sun? How high is the sky? Just theoretical questions, and it gave scientific answers for that. And I became intrigued by that. Early, in as early as the 6th grade, so in junior high school, I knew I was going to be a science and math major in some aspect. And actually, in college, I was a pre-med major. I was going to go to medical school, but I heard there was this relatively new invention, something called a computer, and there was this computer room. I found myself spending evenings there. I would go to the computer room at 8 p.m. and I would leave like at 2 a.m. And we had the camaraderie of the kind of the geeks and nerds. I was one of those back then. And so computers, I got a first job coming out as a programmer. I said, I can go to med school, later, because they were paying good money for programmers. So I came out as a programmer when I graduated from Ohio Wesleyan University way back in 1976. And I said, I can go back to medical school later, but then I just enjoyed the field. And actually my career was kind of rocky until I met a gentleman named Norman Mays who happened to come to Eaton Corporation where I was working. He told me he had just retired from the military and had started a chapter in DC, and he was going to start a chapter in Cleveland in 1980, and he was going to let me help him. I was on board immediately. So my career took off when I became a BDPA member, not necessarily from a job description perspective, but for the opportunity where people could see at the companies I was working with the energy that I had. Where'd you get that from? From BDPA. And I was able to mentor students within BDPA. At that time, it just became a part of my life. And my family knew that, okay, the question was every year, are you coming to the conference with me or not? Because I'm going. And so, they may have gone, my wife and my kids. Some years they would come with me. Some years, they had other things to do. But they knew that was going to be at least one vacation opportunity for us. So then it was in about 1984 when really I got the startup bug from members of BDPA had consulting companies, I wouldn't have thought about the possibility of starting my own company. There was a gentleman named Ken Russell. He had an IT company. He was a BDPA member, and there was a IT project manager in a consulting company, Hank Lawson. And basically I followed their footsteps as members of BDPA, and people were saying, how are you going to start a company? You need like at least 5 years experience. I said, well, in 5 years, I'll have 5 years of experience. So I started my company, and it just grew. I mean, with hard work, you know, with 12 and 16-hour days work, but it just grew. And then over time, so the BDPA organization, the big thing I would say about BDPA right now is it's underappreciated in the industry in terms of there are organizations doing like 1/10 of what BDPA is doing in terms of developing diverse tech talent, which is our niche, what BDPA has been doing since 1975. So what I'm working on right now with the board of BDPA is finding better ways to let the industry know how strong BDPA has always been in terms of this area, but also rolling up our sleeves within BDPA and becoming one of the global leaders in developing diverse tech talent and getting the industry to actually understand that and know that, so that we can have chapters in Nairobi, Kenya, in Lagos, Nigeria, in Asia, Australia, all over the world, and it will be justified because of the excellence in developing diverse tech talent that we're grooming within BDPA. And a big part of it is really motivating our members and realizing we've always had that greatness potential in us, and from Earl Pace, from the beginning, and from those great members of BDPA, like Vivian Wilson, like some of the others, national presidents of BDPA who have really driven us to higher heights. And so this organization, here it is 42 years later. I've been in the organization 42 years, and I believe we're just scratching the surface of our potential of what we can do in BDPA. And I get excited all over again every time I come to one of these national conferences. So we wrote a book called The BDPA Story. Earl Pace, Norman Mays, and I, we had been through so many great experiences in BDPA, and we said, how can we capture that? There's no way we can do it ourselves. Let's interview some of the pioneers of the organization, starting with Earl Pace, Howard James, some of those folks that were right there in the trenches, Marianne Lowry, some of the people who right there were at the beginning, and some of the Dr. Jesse Bemley, the people who, when we kind of got to a point, where do we go from here? Gerard Anderson, some of the people who just said, okay, follow me, here's where we should go. So, and these are members who are getting older, so speaking with Earl and Norm, we've got to get these, and God rest his soul, our founder, Earl Pace, ironically, we've got to get these stories in while we're still here. So we were determined that we would capture the biographies of those folks who led us to great things in BDPA. And it was one of the most rewarding experiences that we did. It took us about a year in 2021 to do all the interviews, to do the 15, 16, 17 interviews of the folks, and then write the book. And it was, we learned so much more about the organization and the personalities and the people who really formed this great organization. And it also, in the 15 chapters, but also in the end of the book, projecting where do we go from here. And that's really the greatest opportunity of the organization. We have an opportunity to be the leaders globally in developing diverse tech talent. And that's what really excites me right now. I'm looking at, I keep saying the phrase developing diverse tech talent because that's what we've always done in BDPA. Ironically, the demand in the marketplace globally for diverse tech talent, for tech talent, period. And diverse tech talent is going through the roof globally. And so we're looking at how can, with these billion-dollar initiatives to develop tech talent in various companies, organizations, and nations, BDPA, we've got to be on the forefront of that. So this next book is going to be about our success, as documenting our success in taking BDPA from an organization of where we have been doing these great things, but we're going to do, and documenting going to our greater greatness in developing diverse tech talent worldwide. So that's kind of what the book is about without going into detail about it. Earl Pace is the mentor for me personally and the mentor for so many, for thousands of IT professionals. He is the founder, the co-founder of the Black Data Processing Associates organization that we call BDPA today. There was a gentleman who worked side by side with Earl named David Wimberly, who, God rest his soul, passed right before we launched BDPA. But David also was an inspiration to really starting the organization. But Earl was an entrepreneur, and so Earl had a company called Pace Data Systems. So when I started my company, I said, well, Earl is Pace Data Systems. I'm going to be Wilco Data Systems. So that was the first name for my company. So Earl was like a mentor, as an entrepreneurial mentor for me, but also a BDPA leader and a mentor. And I changed my name to Wilco Information Management, but at the time, I'm gonna be like Earl. And so Earl just, he was the general. He was the leader. He had the passion. He had the vision. And so many of us, he could help us. He could make us feel it. And so that's how we got started. And then so many great leaders followed Earl in really moving BDPA beyond. And some of Earl's parting words to me as we were winding up, and he couldn't really speak as fluently as he could, but he told me, can help the organization take that next step. And that's why one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping BDPA become a global leader in developing diverse tech talent, because that's one of our next steps. Because Earl Pace told me that before he left. Earl, we're working on it. We're going to do it, Earl. And thank you. I would say thank you. You mean so very much to so many of us, not just in BDPA, but the IT industry. Your induction into the IT Hall of Fame was so overdue that we are proud that you are right there with Bill Gates and some of the others greats in the industry, deservedly so. And we just thank you for bringing BDPA to us. There are some other things I would say to him personally, but that's kind of what I would say to Earl. Yeah.
Now, when any department goes out into the community, we're able to hear the positive responses. And that is a great feeling to know that what we're doing is affecting and impacting the community. In the past, we've heard negative responses about the city being unclean, there's a lot of trash on the ground, or the police, we never see them.
It was important for our residents to feel as though that government was going to be responsive.
People were relying on a 9 to 5 being able to contact about any issues that they had.
We put together a very innovative app that gave our residents access.
IBM assisted the City of Sea Pleasant to incorporate Watson into the My Sea Pleasant app. Any resident who has a question that they want to ask about the city on a 24-hour basis can go into the app and click on Watson to ask it a question.
We had a tree fall, and instead of having to call City Hall, I just went and used the chat and said that there's a tree falling in the middle of the street, and they sent Public Works out to get it for me.
I've used it to report potholes that are in the street. I've used it to see what's going on in the city.
No matter where our Public Works director is, no matter where our employees are, they're able to log in because it is on IBM Cloud and get the service request in real time and respond, in a quick and efficient manner.
It allows them to get to us sooner. On a weekend doesn't matter because it comes through, I'm going to get it. So I love it. I don't see how we ever did without it.